Yes, good. Welcome back. I see you are in the Halloween spirit. It seems as though the Rally Cat is up and about this time around. So, no matter your thirst for a fright, be wary for the Rally Cat's capability to talk about scary games! There is a reason I come around here often. To sit back and watch the pure, unadulterated screams of agony coming from the Rally Mansion. Be wary, or he may scare you!
Given that it's the Halloween season, a lot of people are itching to play some scary games, as am I. That's how it's been historically for me, ever since I've been a kid. And when I look to games that have scared me in the past, there are a lot of games on that list. FNAF, Slender, Outlast, Dead Space, Among Us horror game, you know, the classics. But something you can probably guess without even looking at the title or the thumbnail that this scared me when I was younger, and considering my recent upload history, it's
CoD Zombies!
Specifically, Black Ops 1 and World at War. Looking back, it's so wild that these games scared me as a child. But is it though? Why did they scare me so much? Well, look at the horror games that I mentioned, and what do they all have in common? Definitely a lot of things, but I think the most important aspect of a horror game that all of these games have in common is an effective atmosphere. Now, there are some horror games out there with a similar setting to these games, similar style, environmental storytelling, and little details in them that kind of suggest that this should be a good horror game. But something that makes Black Ops and World at War Zombies effective horror games is that they have all of these three traits. Well, why is that, you may ask? Well, keep fucking watching! All right, now stay with me for a few minutes. I gotta explain something to y'all. When I was in high school, I had a writing teacher that had a special lesson he went out of his way to teach during Halloween. We talked about what exactly makes things scary. We discussed a bunch of different things like monsters and stuff like that, but what really stood out to me was the idea of the fear of the unknown. Ooh, unknown. It seems kind of obvious when you hear it being explained to you, but my dumb little teenage brain didn't quite understand it at the time. Now that I'm older and more mature, for the most part, there are some things that just hit you later on when you're older. You know, they show you what things are when you're younger, but you don't get it until you're later on in your life. That's kind of how this was with me. The fear of the unknown. Why is the dark so scary? Because you don't know what the fuck's there. People are beings of control. It's taken me a really long time to truly understand that, and that alone is a whole nother topic for another video, but I'm just going to explain what that means in the context of horror. If something's off, meaning out of our control, oftentimes it disturbs us, it frustrates us, gives us anxiety, and it stresses us out. For example, sight being one of your 5 senses, if there's a dark room, you just lost control over that environment for like a 1/5 of your senses. You can't see anything. Why do you think there's a meme about turning the fucking lights off in the basement and you sprint upstairs? You don't know what'll get you because you can't see. More often than not, horror movies explore this theme because it's usually most effective and the easiest to write. Video games, however, that's a whole nother medium. Since you generally have more control over a video game horror environment than a movie horror environment, that's when the devs can start to fuck with you. They let you think that you have this control over your actions in the environment, but then they take it away and they subvert your expectations. Man, this was like the perfect hook to talk about Doki Doki Literature Club, but I'm staying on topic. This is about CoD Zombies. Yes, oh my god, stop, you're yapping! What the fuck does this have to do with CoD Zombies? I clicked for a reason. One of your first questions to this video might be like, hey, why are you only including World at War and Black Ops in this video? Well, the short answer is I just don't think the other games are as scary or really scary at all. Something that the 2 original games have that the rest don't is the right setting. Black Ops 1 and World at War really stuck to this realism factor that seems to have left the franchise in future games. Quotations around realism because it's about fucking undead science fiction. But the original games seem to have kept some level of reality, which made it believable in an environment, which you can't say as much for the newer games. This versus this. There's a clear difference here. Not only were the settings more grounded as a whole for these 2 games, but specific maps that were chosen as these settings really add to the creep factor. Look at World at War. You're introduced to this whole saga in an empty airfield, which has a plane crash that presumably you came out of with no backup, a 1911, and you're stuck in this building with hordes of hostiles heading your way under this cool, bright moon glow. You are alone. Obviously, if you're playing solo, you're alone in all these other fucking maps, but Noct really made you feel alone. It really made you feel like Spider-Man.
Verrückt.
Dude, it's a fucking asylum, dude. What more do I have to say about that? It's such a good setting for a horror game outbreak to happen because it's already an unsettling place. Asylums are truly horrific places to be in psychologically. Adding reanimated corpses really just throws your mind for a loop. But we'll talk about what it makes you think about later.
Shino Numa.
This map gets clowned on so much, to be honest. Overhated. A fucking swamp laboratory? Dude, it's gotta fucking stink in there, man. Not only with undead people, but undead dogs? Dude, come on.
There is.
This map was kind of the least scary of the OGs to me, but still, man, a straight up like experimental facility where there are all these kind of locked gates and a bunch of electricity and teleporters, just this like random ass facility. Definitely made you ask a few questions.
Kino der Toten.
Man, what about Kino isn't scary? A place where you usually go to be entertained is now boarded off and locked down in some random ass movie theater. Now I can't enjoy my food and I gotta worry about grinding the box all day to get me to China Lake. But seriously, super creepy vibe. I love it. That's what makes it so iconic.
5.
Dude, you are literally locked in the fucking Pentagon. You can't see the light of day. Shit is going down if you're in the Pentagon already, man, on DEFCON 5. Good fucking luck.
Ascension.
This map was the first map that scared me as a kid because of the fucking intro where everything was gray and I just didn't know what the fuck to do. But looking back, it's kind of the least scary on Black Ops 1. It's kind of just like a rocket launch site, but I did feel like I was not supposed to be there, which added to the creep factor, if that makes sense.
Shangri-La.
Dude, I'm on a remote island with a fucking temple to investigate, man. Again, the alone feeling I got really just made it creepy.
Call of the Dead.
Out in the cold winter, where you can literally freeze to death with a crashed boat, with you feeling like you're the only survivor. But then you have Big Boy George, who scared the fuck out of me as a kid. Him alone was fucking scary in itself.
Moon.
Dude, something that all of these maps in Black Ops 1 have in common is that feeling that you're alone. But Moon just did that the best since Noct, which was honestly pretty fitting to the end of this sort of saga of zombies. Moon felt the least realistic in terms of setting, but you just couldn't deny the fact that you were just by yourself, just literally off of the earth. Each of these maps were effective in their setting to make you feel just a bit uneasy. And something that went right alongside it was environmental storytelling in these maps. I won't go through each of these instances because there are literally probably tens and hundreds of them in these old games because they really cared about detail back in the day. The obvious ones like the radios and the ciphers that kind of told you about the different bits about the story, but things like the crash site on Noct, like I mentioned earlier, nobody told you what happened. You can kind of just assume by looking out and just being like, oh shit, I must have crashed. Now I'm holding out at this random airfield. Or in Kino with the little alien pods. Oh shit, they must have been doing some experiments with these things. Now they have to keep them sealed up for some reason. Will they go crazy if they're taken out? Do they need to preserve them? Questions like that you'll ask yourself. Or like, what the hell is this meteor on Shinonuma? Or even better yet on the map, why did this man just like hang himself? Was he hanged or did he do it to himself? Or even the phone on there that says, I know where you're sleeping. Like, bro, who the fuck are you? That's the stuff I mean when I'm talking about environmental storytelling. That's so effective and so cool, and which is why this and FNAF are a couple of the greats when it comes to that stuff. At least the OG FNAF. But that's a whole nother video. They give you just enough to figure out what might have happened, but they leave enough out for you to make your own conclusion and theorize. Again, I think it's about control. Overcoming a fear of something a lot of times has to do with figuring out what's there scaring you. And when people can't figure things out, they feel like they're not in control, so it bugs you to want to figure it out more. That's why these two game series are so successful, because it combines horror with lots of environmental storytelling. It's scary because we fully don't know what's going on. The idea of show, don't tell. That's why I think that the newer games aren't as effective, not only horror games, but just kind of story games. They literally have a guy kind of just telling you what's going on pretty much all the time in Cold War. And don't get me fucking started on Vanguard, dude. There's a whole reason why that game fucking sucks.
I did not expect to see this place again. Though considering the experiments undertaken here, I should have known it would not remain buried.
It should have remained buried, Dr. Strauss. Team, find the facility entrance.
There is less to figure out on your own, so it makes things boring. And I guess sadly, that's what Activision wants. They want to reach that broader audience to make it more of a casual thing and not make the player feel like they have to do work to enjoy the game. But that's what I want. It's fun, man. It's not just a game. It's a story that I want to interpret, not have interpreted for me. Also, it takes so much of the fun out of making it a community. The zombies community arguably started because we wanted to figure out the storyline, and they're kind of just taking that away nowadays. But I digress. Let me get back on topic. Anyways, look at all these maps. And then look at all of these maps. What do you notice about the maps that I picked?
They're the ones that you just talked about.
Wrong-o. These are the remasters. And these are the ones that I talked about. The difference is, these are scary, and these are not. Why is that, you may be asking? There's something about the remade maps that really don't hold a candle to the OG maps in terms of horror. With remasters comes updated graphics, new weapons for the game, and little things that they add to make the experience of those new maps differ from the old. What if I told you that the idea of show, don't tell doesn't apply to just literally speaking words about the story, but also about how the game looks? Here's what I mean. Don't older games kind of seem to be more scary than new games? Or something about them is just, you know, so different than newer games that makes them less scary? The vibe is like so different. Why do you think there are so many like retro style horror games being made? Like with Puppet Combo, like their whole lineup is like retro style video games, PS1 style video games that are horror. I think the idea behind it stems from the show, don't tell idea, or more so, less is more. In the newer maps, there are lots of detail, not just in the little details on the map, like the round change sounds or little things added to make it more of a remaster, down to the graphical fidelity. There is more detail, which leaves less room for your brain to make the connections. Older games lend to creepier environments because your brain tries to fill in the details instead of the devs, quote unquote, telling you all this information with more details. It leaves more to the imagination. In the older games, there's much less detail in graphical fidelity, so it makes you come to that more realistic conclusion in your head subconsciously. Do I like the remastered maps? Abso-fucking-lutely. I love them. However, they aren't as scary to me. It's almost like more detail that's put into these maps. It kind of paints a clearer picture of them trying to tell me that I should be scared of this. This map was made to be scary. As if I was in mind when these devs were making these remakes. In the older games, it almost seems like I'm the one intruding on the map itself, and I have to figure out the conclusions to these things. If that makes sense to you, it's serious ups to you, man. This was literally the best way I could describe it, but that's the best way I can describe it. But the visuals can't carry all by themselves. With good visual design comes good sound design. Yo, there's actually a fuck ton of insane sounds in these games that are absolutely iconic. They also had this philosophy of subtle but effective. From the background ambience in Verrückt, to the ceiling breaking down in Kino when you turn on the power, to the electricity sounds, really doubling down on the science facility aspect. They really nailed it.
That sounds like trouble.
If you are into video games in the slightest, there's almost 100% chance that you know these. Like, come on, dude. You just know these. Another thing that I never really thought of until like right now is why things are so iconic. The horror vibe and everything I literally just described, juxtaposed by the cheery, catchy perk jingles, is something else that really made this mode stand out. Not to mention the voice lines from all the characters, of course. Zombies had the right amount of seriousness and playfulness to make itself iconic. But hey, I'm getting off topic again. Like, you go from Verrückt, which had all of these like insanely scary, like banging on doors. You had the dentist chair with someone screaming, with all the audio sounds with that. And then you had just all the ambience in that map that truly made it like horrific. And then you got this.
This will make them spray all over my face. All of my face.
All of this to add up to Moon, where there is, get this, no sound. At least very little next to every other map. Bro, you can say what you want about Moon, but man, all I have to say about Moon is that it had the perfect atmosphere. It is my favorite Black Ops 1 map because it scared me the most when I was a kid. Bro, you are fucking alone, and you really felt that way. And it was a perfect full circle to the feeling you felt on the first map made of all time, Nacht der Untoten. Show, don't tell, less is more, and being subtle but effective are three of the most important things, in my opinion, that make World at War and Black Ops Zombies such effective horror games.
Very good. It seems you've survived the night. Consider yourself lucky, because not many can say that they did. Because they're dead! Enjoy the frights and enjoy the night. Enjoy the night, enjoy the fright. No fear in sight. The moon is real bright. Real bright. Ooh. See you next year.